November 7th, 2024. Well, the election's over, and well, that was quite an event, wasn't it? I think you have to say that Trump outperformed expectations. Although I would say that if you look at my last few couple of videos, that basically what I laid out was probably about right, and the way it kind of played out, all the sequences were a little different, and he kind of overperformed the minimal expectations, to say the least. But yeah, we had, as I'd said all along, I was pretty confident we win North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona. Of course, we haven't won Arizona yet, have we? but but that's because they're so terribly poor at counting. They're still, I mean, it's interesting when you look at how much better a job that, say, Florida does than Arizona. It's well, California, of course, has its own mail-in situation, which takes forever to. They give them so much time to get the ballots all in, and that's a mess. But that does have a lot to do with some of the problems with finding out who's going to win all the House seats and so forth. But the big picture worked out, I think, fairly well, even though it was an overperformance. And of course, ironically enough, the northern state that actually clinched the deal was Wisconsin, which was the one I think people thought was the least likely, actually, of the northern states. And then finally, it looks like Trump has won all three of them. And apparently looking pretty good. Well, I think it's clear he'll win Alaska once they get all their votes in. They have at least a little bit of excuse that they're a big, sparsely populated state. So that's, you know, that. And then, of course, the Senate, which was, which I was always looking at as a worst case, a fallback option. But it's interesting, a lot of the races that were being tagged as being fairly close turned out to be not so close. Cruz won Texas fairly handily, where people were talking about like he was on the brink of losing, and a lot of that could be due to the strong Trump performance as well, of course. And then of course Scott did very good in Florida also, and I don't know, will that strengthen his bid to be Senate Majority Leader? I don't know. And then Morano, we got Ohio as well, and and that was a real that's a good one because if we that's one we can probably keep. Some of these very competitive states, but that's a solid Republican state, and if he does a good job, he probably can stay in there for quite a while. So anyhow, that's kind of my basic wrap. If you like these videos, again, please give me a like. I appreciate it. You can, of course, subscribe and click the bell for notifications. Yeah, they're and of course I also post, as I mentioned, on Rumble. Yeah, so that's kind of the wrap up of the House. Of course, is still hanging. Last I saw it, somewhere around what was it, 206 for Republicans or 205 in that range. I think the Democrats are still down a bit. But it seems like most people are thinking that only the Republicans will get to keep the House, but that's still a little undecided at this point. And we can hope they do, of course, which would be totally useful for getting Trump's agenda through. And particularly, I think we want to get the extension of the tax cuts that were made back in his previous term, which are going to expire at the end of 2005. It would be very good to get those extended. And I don't know what else is going to be in there. Some business taxes, and I'm still kind of wondering about all these, no taxes on tips. All Social Security is going to be not tax-free, and all overtime. I don't know. That'd be interesting. I guess depending on whether you're working overtime or whether you're on Social Security, might be that, or if you're living on tipped income. I still think that, well, we'll just have to see. I will say this, that Trump has, I think in a lot of ways overpromised, I believe. If he could deliver half of what he's promised, that'd be great, particularly on the immigration issue. Finding some way to end the war in Ukraine on an equitable basis. I'm not sure how this is going to go. I was remiss to say anything even slightly negative during the campaign, because you got to be all in to win this thing, because Kamala Harris would have been a disaster. So we'll see. I think that Trump is going to inherit a world situation a lot worse than the one he inherited at the beginning of his first term. And it may be a lot harder to get everybody back to behaving again. I think that things have got a little bit more out of control. People are much more risk taking. And, well, we'll just have to see how it turns out. We can wish everybody the best. And so at least we'll get 52 senators, I guess, and there's 47 Democrats for sure. One's hanging, and of course that's the Pennsylvania race, which the last I checked, as of this recording, is just a hair under 30,000 votes advantage for McCormick. So that over Casey. So that's going to be a very interesting, let's say, case. They're saying it's something like about 98.4% of the expected vote in, and hardly anything has come in lately. So I know we're talking provisional ballots here. That'll be interesting. I don't know. Provisional ballots tend toward the Democrats usually, I think, but let's hope we have some too. Or I don't know exactly how many votes are left out. I mean, we got over 6 million plus total votes. 1% of that would be 60,000. If there's that many votes left, I'm getting a little nervous. Let's put it that way, because almost all these Senate candidates are underperforming Trump, and the reason for that probably is because Trump is attracting a lot of ex-Democrats to vote for him, and maybe they're still voting Democrat for the under ticket in many cases. But all right, so I'll wrap this up for now. But I just thought I had to say something. I think I'll put a link to my previous video, the election day one, in there. If you haven't seen it yet, you can kind of judge between how well I did on predicting or not. Obviously, I wasn't as enthusiastic as the results were, but that's my tendency. Anyway, so as always, I'll be putting this on YouTube and Rumble, and the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. So all for now.